Hey everybody, I'm Stacy again with New Creations by Stacy. I'm actually just popping on tonight. This is kind of impromptu. I was on the Chalk Paint 101 page, and if you're just joining me, and of course if you're coming from the other live, I'm just trying to scoot you back here. If you're coming from the other live, we actually just put on this transfer, and I'll be sharing that live to my page in a little bit so you can see the first part of this. The transfer was a little damaged, so there was a couple issues with putting it on, so we ended up spending a little more time and doing some layering in. Hey, Joanne. So we ended up spending a little time doing some layering in, and I wasn't able to get to the stripes and pinstripes. Hey, Trish. So we are actually just going to finish up from the Chalk Paint 101 live. And again, I'm Stacy, and I'm an elite Dixie Belle retailer here in Ardmore, Alabama at the Rustic Willow. Hey, Donna. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do this part. I'm actually going to bring you guys in so that you can just have a view of the drawer. That way you can see really what we're doing. And if you were not on that other live, we're actually, here, let me show you. We're going to be doing some morning sunrise stripes, and then we're going to pinstripe them with the Diamond Moonshine Metallics. And this shouldn't take us long, so it won't be as long as a normal live for me. Hey, Mike, how you doing? All right, so I don't think you were on the other live. I'm not sure. But if you are just joining me for the first time, I was actually doing a Dixie Belle live. We had a few issues with the transfer. So we just went ahead and spent a little more time in fixing that error. So for our stripes, and let's see, hopefully you guys can see that pretty well. What I'm going to do is go ahead and just show you how to put on the tape. We'll go ahead and do the morning sunrise stripes. It's the silk all-in-one mineral paint. And then we'll go back and do the silver on what I've already got done. So the way that I did this, normally, whenever you're doing stripes, you use your marker pieces and you put them right up against the edge of the previous stripe. And then once you do that, you can line out the next stripe, which I didn't make this one long enough. You can line out the next stripe. But in this case, I want to be able to do a little pinstripe. So what I'm actually doing is leaving just a tiny space. I didn't measure this. Oh, hey, yeah, I'll share. I'm going to actually share it in just a minute. Once I finish, I'll share the first part of this video from the Chalk 101 page once I just finished up here. And oh, how's Debbie doing? I heard she had COVID. So what I'm doing is I'm just leaving a little space of how wide I want my pinstripe to be. And like I said, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. You could measure if you wanted to, but you know, it's such a small pinstripe that it's really, really easy to eyeball. You know that you're getting your tape straight whenever you are using these markers. So you don't have to worry too much about that. I will tell you, I did put my initial tape a tad bit crooked, but it's not really noticeable, which is good. I was a little concerned about that. I am putting the stripe on top as well. So I did just go ahead and wrap that around. And then we're just going to peel up our guiding tape. And we're going to go over here and do the same thing. And I'll try to be quick with this part. I know some of you guys have been watching me for 45 minutes already. But you know, this pinstripe is, I love the pinstripe. I love the look that you can create with it. And I've not done a video on these pinstripes before, so I kind of wanted to do that. I've done a lot of videos. I'm not sure why I have not done this technique previously. So, you know, you guys, I know you've been on here for a minute, so I don't know that I'm going to tape it all the way out. You kind of get the idea of how that goes. Well, here, let's just do one more piece since I've already got it in place. And then we'll go ahead and paint a couple. And then we'll go through and do the pinstripe. So normally I do also like to leave my tape. As soon as I do the stripe, I actually like to take my tape off. And the reason I like to take my tape off immediately, oh, hey, Susan. The reason that I like to take my tape off immediately is because once you let it dry, sometimes you can get some chips when you're removing the tape. So let's see here. I'm not worried about that one. I'm going to have to go through and straighten that one out. But like I said, I'm not really worried about that because we went so long on the other video. I really just kind of want to show you guys how to do this. So we'll leave that alone. I'm going to go ahead and paint these stripes now. That was the next step, is to paint the stripes that you have laid out. And like I said, woo, that was a bit much. I'm just using Morning Sunrise, the new silk color. And this is a beautiful kind of a dusty, very light purple. Almost, it looks like it almost has like a lavender base to it. So silk, it's an all-in-one mineral paint. It's going to have a blocking primer. So if this was wood, you know, it would block any tannins from bleeding through, all that good stuff. And then it also has a built-in protectant. So you do not have to protect over it. Each coat has equivalent to one coat of protectant and one coat of the blocking primer. And for the integrity of the paint, even though you have excellent coverage, you do want to use 2 coats. I already have 2 coats of silk on here. So I have 2 coats of silk in salt water for the white. So I don't really have to worry about that. But that's kind of just how you paint your stripes. You burnish your tape down really well so you minimize bleed through. So you don't necessarily have to do the dabbing technique that you would do if you were doing something like a stencil or something like that. So for the pin stripes, and this is why I left these in place. Normally I pull them off right away. But for the pin stripe, and I'll just do one because I know, like I said, I feel so bad. I know some of you guys have already been on with me for 45 minutes. And again, if you're just jumping on, this is just a continuation from the Chalk Paint 101 live. So what I'm doing here, and I'm eyeballing this as well, and I've got to put it in a little bit different light just to make sure that I've got that kind of on there straight. I need to move the top over a little bit. What I'm doing is I'm taking this piece of tape and I'm putting it dead center between the 2 outlying tapes right here so that I can get that tiny little pin stripe in there. And let me see which way I need to go. It's got the Morning Sunrise painted over it, so I kind of have to hold it up to the light. It needs to go over slightly. Like I said, you can actually measure this. I eyeball a lot. I've got to move it over slightly so that I can see it. I'm kind of sitting off to the side so it's creating a glare. There we go, perfect. All right, so I'm going to run it all the way around the top because like I said, I am doing the top in the pinstripes as well. I'm probably going to end up painting this drawer. I just haven't done the inside of it yet. So once you have this tape in place, just rub it down really well. And you want to do that so you don't get a lot of bleed through. And then I'm using Diamond Gemstone Mousse. And this is just a silver color. It is water-based. You could do this with like the silver gilding wax too. You would just want to make that your last step because it is an oil-based. But this is water-based. So what you want to do when you open this up, Sometimes these can be a little chunky when you open them, and it was when I first opened it earlier today. Oh, hey, Felipa. I don't know if you saw the earlier one. I didn't see one earlier, but this is a continuation here. So you can squirt a little bit of water in, and every time you open it up, you just want to stir it really well. And you know what? We're going to use my paintbrush. I'll just wash this off, soap and water cleanup because it's water-based. And you just want to stir it up really well because the metallic pigment will sink to the bottom. So it'll come out more like a gray if you don't stir it really well. You want that metallic in there. And unfortunately, metallic is kind of hard to show up on camera, but hopefully you can kind of see that's what it looks like. And I'll just wash that off later. I'm going to use an art brush, and I'm just going to go down the area, the little tiny pinstripe area that's taped off. One side is from me taping off to paint it with the morning sunrise. The other side I just added. So we're just going to smooth that out. I do like to try to go in one direction so that the metal flakes lay down and it's a little bit more reflective. Now, one thing about this mousse, it dries to the touch quickly, but it will reactivate when you put a clear coat or if you protect over it. It does not require a protectant over it. I like to protect everything. So myself, I will protect it, but I will give it at least 72 hours to fully harden so that when I put that water-based clear coat over it, which again, I don't have to do because my silk has a clear coat in it, but because I sell product, I like it to be very, very durable. So that's why I do it, but you do not have to. It is definitely not a requirement. So that's it. So you can see where I just painted those two. And then we are going to, I shortened this up a bit, you guys. I was going to finish the whole drawer, but, well, because of the first live. And if you guys didn't see it, I know I see some new people on. There was an issue with the transfer and part of it was torn. So we just went ahead and showed how to correct that and how to layer the transfer in. So you can't tell I had multiple tear spots in my transfer. So we're just going to go ahead and slowly remove the tape here. And I'll hold it up and show you guys. So you want to leave that preceding tape. So we can take this one off too. Well, I mean, normally you're not going to be doing this in so many steps, but you'll do yours all together. But for the purposes of the live, I had to do mine in little pieces. So now I'll hold it up so you can see a close-up. So now you can see how those stripes are outlined. It's kind of a subtle look, but once I take this tape off on my piece and you see that mirrored, it's going to go wonderfully. Let me go ahead. I've got some other designs too I'm going to do on here, just not on the live. But it will look gorgeous with those mirrored sides. And it's just a very subtle extra, I guess you could call it, just to really make your piece pop. You said you tried stripes and they weren't good. What happened with your stripes? Did you just get bleed through? You can, I could have done this a little bit better. So if you're doing stripes and you have a problem with bleed through, the trick for that is you can either, if your paint is nice and hard, so like you're using chalk paint, if you let it sit for 24 hours, you can actually, how I burnish this transfer down, you can actually burnish your tape down. So that'll prevent more of the bleed through. I also use frog tape. It's a little bit more expensive than the blue painter's tape. but it's much better at stuff like that. So I use frog tape, and I do have a couple spots that I can go through and touch up. There's actually one spot on the top here, but all I'll do is just take an art brush and go over it with a little white. But another method to prevent bleed through when you're doing stripes is if you use a stencil brush, or you can even use a regular, synthetic brush. But before you saw me, I didn't wipe off any paint or anything. I just put it on there, slapped it on. But if you have a problem with bleed through, wipe your brush off so that it seems like there's really not a lot of paint left on it. So like you could use a shop towel and you would just wipe it off so that it seemed like there was no more paint, and then dab it. You can dab it on. This isn't a good example because this brush is drying out now, but that will prevent the bleed through. And that's also a trick for stencils too. I don't use the tacky stuff because I don't like that residue it leaves. So that's how you avoid bleed through though, if you're not doing that. But let me just make sure I didn't miss any questions. Thank you guys for jumping over. And let's see. Oh, hey, Marianne, how are you? Let's see. All right, perfect. I don't think I missed any other questions, but like I said, I just wanted to jump on right quick, show you those pinstripes since I didn't get to it on the Dixie Belle Live. So thank you guys so much for joining. And Philippa, if that's not your problem with stripes, just put the question on here and I'll go back after the live if I see it. And if it's on here, I'll go ahead and answer or hopefully give you some tips and tricks to help with the stripes. But thanks so much. You guys take care. Have a great night. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully Tuesday will be better.